Welcome to Mental and Emotional Health. We're beginning a series on rape, the increasing rate of rape in our society today. All of us are familiar with what has been going on. I mean, what is the mindset of a rapist? What is rape? What are the causes? How can we, ameliorate or actually eliminate rape in our society? Let's begin with explaining what rape is. Rape is defined as the act of having sexual relationship with an unwilling partner. Is trying to have sexual relationship by force, an unwilling partner. And a few of the synonyms include sexual abuse, sexual violence, or sexual assault. People have reacted against the idea of even can married people be involved in rape. The truth is that it can happen. As far as the other person is not willing, something that's supposed to be a consensual relationship. The other person is not ready, the other person is not willing, and you're forcing yourself on that person. That is sexual assault. And the consequences are not just physical. In fact, there are more of psychological and sometimes spiritual and social. It has so many consequences. People can easily recover from the physical, the physiological, the biological consequences of rape, but the psychological stays with them for a longer time. And most often in this side of the world, in Africa, such consequences, psychological consequences, mental and emotional consequences are neglected. And many of these victims stay with it for years before it begins to cause more problem for them. Now, rape is actually a criminal act. It's a criminal act. Laws of different countries acknowledge that it's a criminal act, and it has people who are been proved to be involved in rape. There are criminal charges against them and punishment. Now, the 2020 global statistics of sexual assault or rape shows that there are 4 countries in Southern Africa that have been reported to have the highest rate of sexual assault. These countries are South Africa, Botswana, Lesotho, and Swaziland. And the rates of rape in this country, Southern African countries include, for South Africa is about 132.4 persons per 1,000. Every 1,000 South Africans, population of South Africans, about 132.4 of them are said to have suffered rape. Now, in Botswana is 92.9% per 1,000. And then in Lesotho is 82.7%, and Swaziland 77.5% per 1,000. Now, the same statistics considered continentally. The result shows that Oceania has the highest level of rape, 27.77%, followed by America. North America has 21.22%, and then Africa came third, 18.9%. Now, for countries and continents that have data that are involved in, active research, you see that these results is easy. Like in Southern Africa, they're able to, find out and report. But in some other, many of African countries, there's no data, no research is being done. And in fact, take for example in our country, Nigeria, because of stigmatization, a lot of people who go through this, a lot of women who encounter this, a lot of women who have been victims of it, they hardly report it. Because if they report, first of all, some of them, the law enforcement agents, are not cooperative. They don't even believe that kind of thing happened to them. Number two, people begin to see them from a negative point of view instead of, sympathizing with them. Instead of understanding the plight they've gone through, people begin to call them names, regard them as woes, as women of easy virtue, So this is part of the reason why we are not able to get the correct statistics about sexual violence in many African countries, including Nigeria. You can see in the past few months that some people are just coming out to say, oh, this happened to me 10 years ago. Oh, this happened to me 20 years ago. Oh, this happened to me many, many years ago. We're just wishing that such victims will be courageous enough to come out and because the more you speak out about it, the more you're able to find solution than to bottle it up. In psychology, we talk about catharsis, release of tension, release of emotion. You don't lock it up because that can be destructive. All right. We'll proceed by looking at some of the causes of rape. Why do people engage in sexual violence? Why do they regard others as toys? Why don't they respect, the other person? Well, rape has been more of male against female. But it's a pity that these days we're also noticing that it could happen the other way around. Right? Of course, it's happened more rampantly male against female. But it's also true that some cases have been reported where it's females, particularly what we call gang rape, females meting out sexual violence on men. All right, what are the causes? Let's consider some of the causes of sexual violence. When we're discussing it like it looks like as if it doesn't really affect us. But you see, if you have somebody close to you who has gone through this, you know that it's a very painful experience. It's a very terrible experience. That society will have to, come together and find solution to this. One of the causes of sexual violence in our society today is mythology. Wrong tradition. For example, in Southern Africa, there's a very strong belief that if you have sex with a virgin, right, that's the cure for diseases like HIV and sexually transmitted diseases. I mean, this is mythology. This is a lie. This is wickedness. That's why the rate of sexual assault in Southern Africa is soaring and growing higher and higher because of this mythology. And you see, because of this also, the rate of sexually transmitted diseases are also increasing. Because it's a lie. It's not true. I mean, it's not scientific. It cannot be proved that somebody who has HIV, that somebody who has herpes, and other sexually transmitted diseases will have sexual relationship with a virgin and the disease will go. How? It's a lie. It's falsehood. In fact, I watched a clip where women in Kenya, elderly women in Kenya, were learning martial arts in order to defend themselves because it was getting terrible. Women had to learn martial arts to defend themselves from sexual assault. So this is one of the reasons why rape is increasing in society, particularly in places like Southern Africa, other societies that believe in such mythologies. Now, a second reason for the increasing rate of rape in our society today is vengeance, right? There are men who've maybe tried to reach out to some ladies or girls and the lady refused or rebuffed them. And then they are now planning. They now plan how to, pour out their wrath or their anger on that lady. We advise women and ladies actually to be careful and not be insultive, even when you're refusing a guy, don't abuse him, don't insult him, But in spite of that, people are still, get into vengeance that the lady said no. Some people now go and plan against that lady, So vengeance is one of those reasons why people engage in that. Another cause of sexual violence in our society today is substance abuse, drug abuse. Whether it's the drugs that, make people to feel high, like cocaine, or what we call the downers, like heroin. All these drugs all lead to an altered state of consciousness. It makes people not to think well. It affects their emotions, their thinking. Okay? And so under such a state of altered state of consciousness, people begin to do things they're not supposed to do. Under the influence of drug or substance abuse. Take, for example, something like alcohol that is very common. A lot of people don't even know that alcohol is a drug. Initially, alcohol intoxicates. It removes the barrier of, shyness initially. And the person will maybe begin to do things he didn't plan to do. But later, alcohol, will lead to depression. Particularly if you get drunk, people that get drunk. But that initial response of intoxication, in that state of intoxication, you see people can get into violence, and then it will lead to rape. Again, another cause of sexual assault in our society today is negative peer group pressure. Peer group pressure, when friends say that if a goat that doesn't eat yam begin to follow the one that eats yam, evil communication corrupt good manners, right? When boys or men gather and begin to tell, share stories, bad stories of sexual exploit and exploitation of women, right? And then people begin to hear this and absorb this. So some of those guys will go to implement what they've had. I mean, I've talked to this lady, she not agree, and the other person said, this is how I handle her, and that could lead and does lead sometimes to sexual violence. Okay. Connected to that is following, of course, being in the wrong company. Being in the wrong company could lead to somebody imbibing the practice of sexual violence. All right, I purposely left it as maybe one of the last ones to mention. A lot of men, particularly at society, have put the blame on women, on womanhood, that because women wear indecent dresses, that's why the men are coming with, responding with sexual violence. But I tell you, it's a half-truth. You see, because rape is first of all, a state of the mind. It's a state of the mind. You could see a half-clad lady or even a naked woman, and yet the idea of rape will not come into your mind. Okay, it's issue of value. What's your value for womanhood? Women are their toys? Women are their things you buy? Women are their things you use and dump? Right? Okay, and I really want us to think seriously about that. Don't give that excuse that because I'm not excusing women for dressing carelessly. No, that's not okay. The body is sacred. The body is important. And you need to cover your body properly, right? You need to cover your body properly. If you're going to marry, you should preserve that body for your husband or for your wife, okay? You should dress properly. But what I'm saying is that a lot of people have used indecent dressing as an excuse to be involved in rape. And I'm saying that's not correct. Why? Let me give you an illustration. There are children who their bodies are not even developed. What is a 45-year-old man, 50-year-old man doing with a 6-year-old girl? Is it because she dressed indecently? What we call pedophilia. I mean, what is 50-year-old man doing with a 6-year-old child? A child is not even a girl. Right? Is it because she was dressed indecently? No. The people that dress indecently even go free. And then other people suffer. for that. Some of these children who are not developed, their bodies have not developed, and yet they suffer rape. And that will tell you that indecent dressing could be a reason, but that's not a major reason. So you could also come to the point where rape is as a result of spiritual reasons. People who are under the influence of evil spirits, because it doesn't make sense. You hear of 2-year-old children being raped. What for? Some people are involved in Satanism. They are involved in making rituals, just like in the issue of the mythology in Southern Africa, right? They believe that if they rape a child, they will acquire more power, or they will acquire wealth. And so they get involved in those things. Nobody provoked them. They were not provoked. They provoked themselves. And so for us to handle rape, the family, the society, the government, NGOs, individual and corporate organizations, we are all being called together to see what we can do to handle this, this menace in our society. Sexual violence is terrible. Like I said, it has not just the physical and physiological and biological consequences. It has a lot of psychological consequences, which is deep in the mind and the emotions of the victim. And that needs to be dealt with. We're going to be discussing more about this in the next session. Remember to help to handle this problem of sexual violence, rape in our society. And our society will be better. Women will be valued because women are so important. They are the mothers. They are the channel through which both male and female come into this world. If they are devastated, if they are destroyed, what will happen to society? Let's join our hands and see how we can deal with this problem. See you next time. God bless you.